and Napoleon Leo Usher in House of Usher didn't have to audition for that. So at what point did Mike actually start talking to you about this role? When did that happen?
So the next role is always discussed while you're doing the previous role. So Bly, I think I told you, he told me about Hassan. He started looking at me sideways and sort of like glancing and thinking. I could see his brain kind of like working on the pilot within like the first couple of scenes we were doing together on Bly Manor. Then within a month or two, we spoke about Hassan. During Midnight Mass, I think we were having like dinner at his or something, and he goes, "Yeah, I think my next project's going to be an Edgar Allan Poe thing." So this was 2020, and he had said that like he was going to do another like family-based one, just like Hill House and Bly Manor and a family, but this one would be adopted siblings. Which means he's not committed also to just like one family being one particular race. He could have like half brothers and half sisters, so we could all play this one giant family, and that we would all fold into this one large narrative, but we would also represent an Edgar Allan Poe story. So he had told me about that, like, I want to say October, November of 2020, and I think where this one's different for me with Mike is this is the first one written for me. Obviously, Bly wasn't. I just auditioned. Midnight Mass was already good to go. I just stepped into the role. Leo Usher is my first, like, Mike wrote this for me, with me in mind, as he did with, I think, almost all the characters. And bar scheduling, pretty much everyone he wanted from then was in this one.
And in terms of creating Leo Usher, by the way, I should say, a huge fan of the series. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's available on Netflix right now, although I imagine a lot of people have seen it because it's been a huge success. It's fantastic. And you're fantastic in it. So tell me about creating Leo Usher. Because Mike kind of, he leaves you on his own, doesn't he? He's that trusting of your relationship and your ability to build this character. It's like, Rahul, over to you.
Yeah, for sure. At this point, it is. Obviously, he's there if there's any questions whatsoever, and super approachable. But like, I think this one in particular was like, because it was written with me in mind, and I like. It's also, I want to say there are certain aspects of me that Mike had written into Leo. So, he wanted, of all the siblings, me to be the social media, the guy that they could throw in front of, they said, Kimmel, and put in front of podcasts and be the mouthpiece of the family and have a bit of charm. So I think that was part of Mike's little nod to maybe how I've interacted in the past with press and things like that. And then he collects Jordans and has a big, Nike Jordan wall. He plays video games. He doesn't leave his house. So there was the extremities of me, 100%. It was Mike's kind of version of me. And then, so like, it wasn't the most, I know that like I'd taken a big break. I think there was a big break between filming. So I had gotten so out of shape. I think the biggest thing I had to do was get back into filming shape, not even Leo shape. I had to do a lot of work just to look like how I did in Usher. And that wasn't even like, it wasn't a Marvel movie. It was just like, look like a dude who parties a lot, And I was kind of looking at, funny enough, I couldn't stop thinking about the Leo summer bod. When you see pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio and between filming with the squirt gun and models. And that was like, and because they're both called Leo, I always had this image of that's kind of how you look when you're a party boy in your late 30s, early 40s. But I think there was only a few discussions we had. I had one which I think my partner talked me out of, which I still go back and forth, and I was like, I don't know if we made the right call. I wanted to play Leo, like I don't know what a better word for it is, but like a roadman from London. I wanted to have like, yeah, bruv, how you doing? Yeah, what, bruv? I wanted to be like that and have that accent in a Netflix show, like Top Boy, which is not something I would be necessarily like stealing. I'm from Wembley, I'm from London, right? So it's part of that culture that we grew up in. But I always saw him as like a footballer, you know, like these kids who end up with like a million pound contract, you know, making, I don't know, 200 grand a week or whatever, but they're from round the corner, and then they're stuck in front of the media and they're like, yeah. But so I was thinking about it, and she had definitely was like, I don't think you should do this. But it would have required me to literally change dialogue in order to make it fit that accent, because it's not just an accent, it's also it's a heavy translate. I think that's what probably tipped it. I didn't want to have to go in there and redo it. So we kind of just went for something a little bit more me, unpolished. But it was the tattoos. I think that was the biggest conversation I had with Mike, was how he looked. I saw a model, a British model, whose name I can't remember right now, but like I saw him wearing this suit and he had the side of his head shaved and he was just covered in all these tattoos, and it just screamed edgy. And I sent it to Mike and I was like, I'm thinking, what do you think of this for Leo? And he dug it, but his warning was always like, you know, this is going to be a pain in the ass for you, right? Like, if we're applying this every morning, we have to shave your body. Like, you are going to hate this after. It's going to feel good for a few days, and then it's just going to be a slog. And he was right, but I'm glad we did it, because that was the feedback I got was that look was very well received by the audience, and it also looks nice in the collection photos when they keep showing the Flaniverse actors, and they show all your characters now, which is its own weird kind of thing you worry about when you're like, okay, well, this one has to look completely different than the last because Netflix are going to do a comparison photo.
Oh man, it's he's a really great character, Leo. To me, he's the only likable one of the siblings. Really, I think he's the one that you relate to. He's got a couple of scenes, one I'm going to talk about in a moment, that you sort of go, oh bloody hell, good on you, Leo. Your episode. Thank you so much for watching this interview. I'd love it if you would check out some of the other interviews on our channel. They're all fascinating and unique trips to the movies with some wonderful, wonderful guests. And if you would like to find out more, do hit us up on our social channels. We are at Trip to Movies Pod. That's at Trip to Movies Pod on all social media, with lovely content on there. And you can get in touch with us if you so wish. Thanks again.